Welcome to Reels on the Rocks, the show where your hosts Whiskey and Sweet Tea discuss film from the unpretentious perspective. What happens when a bad director makes a good movie? We're finding out with Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always, please be advised that spoilers are ahead.
Welcome back, everybody. And welcome back to a specific part of our audience who probably haven't heard from us. Well, you hadn't heard from us in a long time, and then you heard from us all at once.
Right.
So
we haven't seen y'all
for any of those who
though.
For any of those who are wondering, the intern who is responsible has been fired out of a cannon into the sun by Elon Musk's SpaceX team.
Oh my god.
No, not really. But yeah, so I don't know if we really talk about, like, for the last year, everyone on YouTube Music has been, tuning in fairly, faithfully. And we were wondering, oh, wow, we really fell off on all the other platforms. And I was having dinner with a very close friend, an industry insider, and he was very interested in listening to our Dracula episode from this year, because it's one of his favorite movies as well. And I was trying to send him a Spotify link, and I noticed, that's weird. It looks like we haven't uploaded in over a year. So we looked into it, and there was an oversight, and we hadn't uploaded a bunch of episodes. So I'm guessing it probably affects Apple Music and stuff too. I know they're up on Spotify because I double checked after we fixed the issue. But welcome back to any of you guys. Sorry it's been a while. I know a lot of people were listening to us, at least on Spotify. I think Apple, we had fairly good listeners.
Right,
but
right.
It made a lot of sense. Because T and I were kind of oh, that's really weird of all of the platforms for us to take off. It's weird that YouTube, of all things, would be the one, since, I don't really know how many people listen to podcasts on YouTube when it's not H3 or Logan Paul or something. So thanks for listening. But yeah, sorry about that to everybody else. We are back. We'll check in to make sure that that's not happening again.
Well, don't worry.
But just thought that was worth addressing.
Don't worry, Whiskey. The what is it called? The intern responsible has been released. That was me doing my best Kevin Bacon impression in Beauty Shop.
There we go.
we were both just really, YouTube's where it's at. Okay.
Apparently, right?
Yeah.
So, we got some small news things to talk about. I'll let T take the lead, because you had something specifically you wanted to touch on before we get into the main course here.
Aaron Sorkin is in talks to do a sequel to The Social Network.
No way. That was one of the things I saw when I was looking for stuff to talk about. Yeah, that was literally a day ago, and I don't know if you saw it on the same. It was on Variety's Instagram account, which I didn't even know they had an Instagram account. But no, this is crazy news, because I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show before, but I've definitely said to you multiple times, I'm with all the crazy stuff going on the last half a decade, from everything politically, with all of the AI slop, and with all of the stuff going on with stuff even beyond Facebook, it's worth making a sequel to the Social Network. And I felt that way, I think it was last year, but I rewatched the Social Network on Netflix, and it held up. I was wow, this actually is probably still one of Fincher's best films.
Oh my god, love Brenda Song. She's amazing.
But yeah, watching it, I was this feels so quaint compared to everything going on right now. I remember at the time it was oh, it's a scandalous story. It's about this guy who created this thing just because a girl dumped him and he couldn't get over, which Zuckerberg always says oh, that's not true.
Oh, please.
Whatever. Yeah, just watching it, it's because it takes place in the mid 2000s, early 2000s. So it just, the drama is still there. It just feels so quaint compared to how bad everything's gotten. You had, you know, speaking of Facebook, you had like a, you know, hopefully, I hate using the word because who knows if we're going to get dinged or something. But, you know, years ago, it facilitated a genocide in Myanmar, and, or maybe it was Myanmar, like in East Asia,
Yeah.
there was like, you know, targeting of a minority group on Facebook. And nowadays, you know, older people are just being tricked by like AI slop constantly. They literally will believe just like the most fake images, and Facebook's just doing nothing to police this stuff. I'm very excited. Aaron Sorkin's a great writer. I think what's interesting though is the original Social Network. He wrote it, but it was based on a book. So it's kind of interesting there hasn't been like a follow-up book by the same author. But I think the same author has been the one writing a lot of tech stuff. Like, maybe I'm wrong. I know there was a prominent author who like attempted to write Elon Musk's biography like a few years ago, and then Elon threw a tantrum and thought it sucked. And like,
probably because he wasn't born from an alien spacecraft and deposited it on Earth with all the genius and money in the world.
Yes,
it probably
yes.
is my guess, but I guess
concerning.
They said that there's always been some interest to do a follow-up to this, to follow up to this to the Social Network, which is, you know, it's kind of like, you know, not only is it a mainstream classic, I also think it enjoys also the same sort of fan base you would kind of see in a cult classic film fan base. But they said, you know, Aaron Sorkin previously said he was only interested in doing it if, you know, Fincher would come back, because, you know, there's lots of stuff to go back on. But then that pretty much has been all as far as they said. And then I guess in a recent podcast called The Town, he said that he began writing about, and just so everyone knows, I'm quoting an article from Variety by Angelique Jackson entitled "The Social Network Sequel in the Works," directed by Aaron Sorkin.
Ooh, directed by Aaron Sorkin. That's interesting.
Right. It said that he'd begun writing about the social media network's recent dealings, and he said, quote, "I blame Facebook for January 6th," end quote. He wouldn't answer why he felt that or anything, and he teased, "You're going to need to buy a movie ticket to answer all these questions about why he thinks that." So that's pretty cool, because I don't know, was that Best Picture winner, or I know it was up for it, but
it was nominated for Best Picture. It won. One thing I thought was awesome, it actually won Best Musical Score for Trent Reznor, because this was like, he'd already collaborated with Fincher before, but this was his first time actually scoring a film. And Trent Reznor, I don't know if you're familiar, he is Nine Inch Nails. Like,
oh, okay.
It's one of those things where it's a band, but
yeah.
It's his band. Like, he writes all the music. Like, the band does what he tells them to do, essentially. So, like, Nine Inch Nails, and I've alluded to this on the show before, but I like that kind of music. I like, you know, metal. I like that sort of, you know,
he's
that
definitely
vibe.
A fangirl for your heavy metal,
right?
For your hardcore.
Yeah. So, but it's cool because, like, that was, unless I'm mistaken, that was his first time scoring a film, and he's gone on to win later. If you saw the Pixar film Soul, that was also Trent Reznor.
Oh, okay.
So, and I mentioned this on our finale last year, but Trent Reznor and Atticus Finch, who I believe is also in Nine Inch Nails, they collaborate together, but they both did the score for Challengers.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason I liked that movie so much. It had this weird, like, techno dance kind of vibe,
right,
which you wouldn't associate with a tennis movie, but it worked really well, especially with, like, the sexual tension going on. It felt like, I don't know, he's one of my favorite composers right now. He does, and he has range. Soul, for instance, you know, he didn't use any of his weird techno industrial metal kind of stuff. Like, it was all like classical, like jazz piano and stuff. So the guy knows what he's doing musically. And even before Nine Inch Nails, like he was in like this very goofy kind of like almost they were called like the Birds of Paradise, and he wore like a Hawaiian shirt, and it was very like Jimmy Buffett kind of sounding music. So he has like he knows his music. He could play just about any kind of genre you ask him to. So if he were to return, that'd be really cool. I'm a little concerned because Aaron Sorkin, I think he's directed things before. Everyone knows him for writing. He's the West Wing guy. He's the Newsroom guy. He's written films like The Social Network. Like he's very much into like political drama kind of stuff. But Fincher, I think he played a role in what made that movie kind of interesting. And he was up for Best Director. Again, I don't think it won picture or director, but it was nominated for both.
Because
I just remember Trent Reznor winning the Oscar for composing the same way he won for Soul.
Well, no, and
so
that
it did win some stuff.
That makes total sense because David Fincher, he kind of brings more of like, I don't want to say a noir-y feel to it, but a noir-y feel to it.
No, he does. He has like because you can't really pin down his style. He works really well for like crime movies. Mm-hmm. But this wasn't a crime movie per se, but it was all very much based on like a bunch of people being pissed at each other. Like, you stole my idea. No, you stole my idea. And it worked, it gelled really well with like the story it was telling. And he also has like a visual style. So there's like this sort of dark edginess to it. And it's like, again, the story is just about a bunch of these up and coming tech people and rich people like backstabbing each other. So it kind of worked in that sense as well.
I mean, shouldn't we really call this like, what happens when you make rich people, when you make the wrong people rich and famous?
There were so many, like, that was also, speaking of which, like, the Winklevoss twins were played by noted cannibal.
Okay. I'm assuming Armie Hammer.
Yeah. What Armie Hammer, which that was funny rewatching it last year, because I was like, whoa, wait a second, he was the Winklevoss twins. And also, I think he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I could be wrong about that, but I remember Justin Timberlake also played the Napster guy.
Oh my god, Napster!
And he did a good job.
I haven't heard of Napster.
This was
forever.
Right? Well, and I mean, that's, again, like I said, when you watch The Social Network, it feels quaint because that's what was going on during the movie. Like, this is when the guy still had money from Napster. Like this was like as he was being sued by all of the music labels, and he's the one that took Zuckerberg under his, when he's like, oh man, you got to do this, and this is how you make it cool, and blah blah blah. So that's like part of the story too, is like he's kind of getting like swept up by this hot shot douchey sort of like tech millionaire. Maybe, yeah, I don't think he was a billionaire. He certainly didn't become a billionaire because he got the hell sued out of him. But, yeah, no, it's, I was saying this again, I think I said it right after rewatching The Social Network, but exciting news, because my goodness, a lot has happened since Facebook became as big as it was. Because that was the other thing when that movie came out, was like at the peak of Facebook's popularity. Because since then, it's kind of become a social network for older people. Mm-hmm. You don't really, it's bought a bunch of things. Like Instagram is still popular with young people, and Facebook owns that.
Right.
But Facebook itself, like in 2010 when that film came out, it was like, and maybe it was 2011. Whatever. Like when that film came out, it was still like high up. Instagram was like about to surpass it. Snapchat was still relevant. I don't know, like so many things have changed. I mean, speaking of Elon Musk, he's bought Twitter and renamed it X.
Which, oh my god, we're not even going to touch that with a poll.
So a lot has happened, and I think it could be a really cool movie. The thesis for this themed pairing is good films by bad directors. And yes, we are doing this to infuriate you so that you hate watch these 2 episodes, and I'm sure you can guess what director we might be talking about next time. But my target for the day, my target for this episode is Zack Snyder, or The Wizard, as his nickname is listed on IMDb.
What? Are you serious? His nickname is The Wizard, and he puts that on his professional
Apparently,
profile?
I don't know. They didn't elaborate. Like, it was in his bio. Like, who knows? Maybe someone added that as a joke or something. But so we're talking about his directorial debut, the 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead. And it's been a while since we've talked about zombies on the show, and it's actually kind of apt timing because as of recording, 28 years later is in theaters, and that was literally the first zombie and only zombie film we've ever talked about on the show, way
true.
back in our first season. So it's been a while. It's one of those genres, that kind of bothers T a little bit. Not into apocalyptic stuff.
Yes.
Although a lot of years have passed, a lot of, because you really liked Mad Max, and that was also post-apocalyptic, so...
Right, but
maybe
it was like so far after the fact that I didn't care.
Yeah.
It's like playing Fallout.
Exactly. Well, and there you go. Like, maybe you've overcome that fear. And I mean, the new film, 28 years later, it's the same idea. It's so long after the apocalypse that, like, you have, like, communities and, people surviving after the fact. But we'll go into what we're drinking. How about you, T?
Okay, so for some reason, I always kind of associated, like, the colors of, like, the Dawn of the Dead kind of movies as, like, yellow and orange. And so I was like, you know what I should do? A tequila sunrise. So
Ooh.
I did a tequila sunrise because I think I looked it up, and I think it is one of the posters kind of has that ombre effect to it of yellow and orange.
Well, I mean, what is dawn but sunrise?
Oh my god. Yeah, okay, actually, let's go with that. I was being super deep here, and I thought dawn, and it was like, tequila sunrise. I was being that
exactly. Exactly. No, so mine's a bit simpler. So one thing that's very unique about this version, and I actually found an excuse why. So unlike the original, this one takes place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for some reason. This film is set in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. In Milwaukee, just Wisconsin in general, it's like a big beer state. It's like beer and cheese are what they're known for.
Right.
So I did a little searching because I'm like, I know that they're still producing beer. They're not, as big as they once were. There was that one beer Schlitz that was super popular in like the 60s. Does it? I guess it exists, but like you have to like live there to even be able to get it. Also, one thing that's new about beer these days that's kind of good and bad, it's all local stuff. I don't know if it's the same with you over in Texas, but like there's tons of like beer options where I'm at, but they're all from like local microbreweries or like places in California. So like it's kind of hard to find domestic beers from other states.
Right.
So I'm drinking something very basic, but that's because it was the only Milwaukee beer I could find. In Milwaukee, the biggest beer company that's still in operation is the Miller Company.
Yes.
Miller Lite, yeah. Miller whatever. So I have got Miller High Life that I've been sipping, quote unquote, the champagne of beers, as they say. So cheers to Miller. I don't really drink it usually, but this is pretty good, to be honest.
Just casually shading them as he drinks it.
Right. Well, hey, nothing against them. It's just one of those. I'll take you. I'll say this: you're far better than any of the Budweiser stuff. Like ew. No. Cool. So this is not the original Dawn of the Dead. This is the remake, and it came out March 19th, 2004. Hold on to your butts, because its budget was $26 million, and it made it back opening weekend with some money to spare.
Wow.
Overall, it grossed $59 million domestically and $102 million globally.
That's impressive.
The trend still works. Oh yeah, no, this is, I say it every time we cover a horror movie, because I don't think I've ever covered one that didn't do well at the box office. I'm sure someone could find an episode that I'm wrong, like, but I swear it's the easiest money making scheme. If you ever want to, A24 did it. They just did a bunch of horror movies, and now they're making all kinds of different things. So a New Line Cinema, they made Nightmare on Elm Street, and later on they made Lord of the Rings. If you ever want your studio to make a ton of money, make horror movies.
Oh my god.
So obviously, directed by Zack Snyder. This is an interesting thing, and this is going to get into kind of my criticism of Zack Snyder. But so he did not write this film. Who is credited is George A. Romero, and I think he's only credited because he wrote the original. I don't think he worked on this.
I've heard from other places he actually didn't even like this.
So he's credited as a writer, but I think that is just because, it's based on his concept for the original. What is crazy is who did write it, who is also kind of about to have a big blow up next month with his upcoming superhero film. This film was written by James Gunn. Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn.
Oh my god, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Because that's the thing. Like, people talk about James Gunn, like, oh, he's like, he was a writer, and he wrote this kind of stuff. He worked for Troma when he was like a teenager. He wrote Romeo and Juliet. If you don't know Troma, they were like a B movie factory. They did stuff like The Toxic Avenger, just like horror schlock on the smallest budget possible. But that's how James Gunn got started, was cutting his teeth writing garbage, good garbage. And that was kind of the thing. Like, he was always a bit above everyone else, and he loved horror, like stuff like this. Obviously, he loved like superheroes and stuff too, and that's kind of what's gotten him popular now. But so James Gunn wrote this.
Right.
I think it shows also. As I said, I'll get more into that as we talk about the actual content of the film. The cast, I didn't write down every survivor, just like the big ones. We got Sarah Polley. I'm pretty sure it's Polly and not Polly, but Sarah Polley is Anna. We've got Jake Weber as Michael. We've got Ving Rhames as Kenneth. We got Ty Burrell as Steve.
I know, that was wild.
Modern Family fans, if you ever want to shock someone, just show them clips of him playing Steve in this film. We got Bruce Bone as Andy. We got Mekhi Phifer as Andre. And we got Ina Korobkina as Luda. As I said, just the ones I felt like were kind of worth writing down. And obviously, I'm sure everyone is wondering what mall this was shot at. Hilariously, it's not even in Wisconsin. It's not in America. This was shot at the Thornhill Square Mall in Ontario, Canada. Wow. So if you ever want to, reenact scenes from this movie before getting shown out by mall security, that's where you're going. So in my research, I think I know where I heard this, but years ago, I want to say it was like 2016, 2015, there's some YouTubers who, now they do like real news, but back in the day, I watched them when they were like doing entertainment news. They literally worked for Warner Brothers. And I remember around the time that Batman v Superman came out, they were like mentioning, there was like an offhand comment one of them made about how Zack Snyder started off as a cinematographer. And I just sort of took that as gospel without looking into it. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things, I'm happy I've got this show, because in my research, what are you talking about? He's credited as cinematographer for 4 movies, and, to his credit, he is doing his own cinematography now, and he's doing it for his worst movies, the most recent Netflix ones. But no, he did not start off as a cinematographer, and the cinematographer in this film is Matthew F. Leonetti. So no, he didn't. He actually started off doing music videos, which I thought a long time ago too. His first directing credit was for a music video in 1989. So
what was it for?
That's pretty much. Know? It was for some artist called Lizzie Borden, so I don't know if it's like a horror rock or like a metal. It's
she just came back to life, wrote a song about what she allegedly did.
I'm guessing it's like a Misfits type act, you know, like it's rock, but like, so I forget the name of the song made it sound like it was, you know, kind of a joke thing too, like it was about that. But yeah, so he's been doing stuff for a while, but he's basically just been like directing music videos. It wasn't until this is his directorial debut. So this is what led into his big career. Right after he did this is when he did 300 was his follow-up film, and that is what really put him on the map. And that's also what kind of made him be like the cool visual style director, because that one was famously pretty much shot in a warehouse on green screen, but he made it look, you know, a certain way. I remember that was like the first time I really, because it's funny, I'd seen this movie before 300 came out, but I didn't know who he was. You know, frankly, I didn't know who James Gunn was at the time either. But years later, when 300 came out, in my geography class, the teacher had like a subscription to Time magazine, and she was kind of, you know, hey, you guys should start, like, you're freshmen in high school now, you should read the news, you should be up on current events. So like, I forget if it was just once a week or if it was like at the beginning of class or something, but she had like a whole pile of like the most recent issue of Time magazine, and she'd just hand them out to like have us read. And it was kind of an interesting time to be forced to do that, because like I read an article about 300 and how visionary it was. That was around the time Halo 3 was coming out, and that was like a big thing about how it was the biggest video game launch of all time. There was an issue about how Barack Obama was going to be the future president of the United States years before he won. So kudos to that teacher. It was kind of, I feel like that started me actually giving a shit and like trying to be informed.
I am going to be
obviously
a productive member of society now.
Well, as you can tell from the articles I remember, I stuck to arts and entertainment. Anytime there was something about a movie or a video game, that's generally what I was reading. That was also the year that YouTube won Person of the Year, which seemed like people were mad about it at the time, but that was also the year that Google bought YouTube, and that was like a big historical.
Right.
It was an interesting time to be forced to read Time magazine, but that's kind of where I became more aware of Zack Snyder, and that was like his rise to fame. But as you can tell from how much money this movie made, that's the whole reason he was able to even get his hands on 300.
Right.
So this film's set in Wisconsin. Famously, George A. Romero is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he usually set his films there. And the original Dawn of the Dead, it's set in a shopping mall, but I don't believe it's in Pittsburgh. It is in Pennsylvania though. So I thought that I was like, and the film makes a point to let you know you're in Milwaukee. So I was like, what is up with that? Turns out Zack Snyder's from Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I guess that was kind of a little nod to his home state. So this was his feature film debut. He was 37 years old when he made this. He directed music videos up until now.
Can we just say, in 20 years, we've seen the meteoric rise and very interesting downfall of Zack Snyder. It's like 20 years.
Kind of.
I mean, he's not downfall. I mean, he's still, making movies and stuff, but like reputation-wise, like he was kind of thought of as like, at least from what people on the internet say.
Yeah, well,
he was kind of thought as like the savior of like superhero movies.
It is funny because for a time, he was looked at, as the savior of superhero movies and a visionary director. I remember that Time magazine article was speaking of him as if he was like going to be the next Spielberg or something. Like which is fair. Like 300 was mind blowing at the time with how it looked. Mm-hmm. And that too, like with some of the fun facts I wrote down, James Cameron is apparently a big fan of Zack Snyder. So,
okay.
So like even better directors than him look at him. He started doing his own cinematography with his Netflix films. So Army of the Dead, the what are they called? His stupid Star Wars ripoff. He's doing
you saw that. Then you saw that for last year, I think.
I saw 2 of them, and I might watch the third one. The second one was awful.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Who listens to, because it's fun to watch bad movies, so I can make fun of them on our show. And also, I didn't hate the first one, but the second one was so bad, I retroactively lowered the score of the first one.
I mean,
so
he was like, well, the first one was not that good to begin with, but now it's even worse. No, the thing that's always irritated me about him is he managed to con WB into giving him basically an entirely new film budget to reshoot just sequences from the other Justice League. Right, I think it was Justice League. Yeah, I think it was Justice League. And that always irritated me because the people who, everyone's calmed down now and it's kind of like, yeah, this one isn't that good either. But at first people were being like, oh, it's so much better. And I'm like, well, yeah, he got an entire new movie's budget and he got a dry one technically with the first one. I know it was finished up by Joss Whedon, but he got to see what didn't work with audiences in the first one. So he got to kind of like, you know what I mean? That's always bugged me.
Yeah, I do. I do. Well, and that was almost like, because the other interesting thing about him is that he has like his own fan base. Like, he's an interesting character. We haven't talked about him much on this show. You know, our whole shtick here is that we are anti-pretentious directors.
Right.
But I wouldn't really I wouldn't call him that necessarily.
His fan base ruins him for most people.
That's the thing. He is way nicer than his fan base. He is, and that's another thing. Like, so in my research, I tried to find anyone talking about a bad on-set experience with him.
Right.
Maybe I just didn't look hard enough, but I could not find anything. Everyone loves working with him. He's very nice. He's enthusiastic. He doesn't lose his temper. He's great to work with. Like, whatever you work, like, if you work with him, the movie's probably going to be a steaming pile of crap.
Right.
But he is a pleasure to work with. So he's got that going for him. He's also got a bunch of kids. Like, rest in peace to his daughter. Right. That was very unfortunate. Of course. Reason that he was, but he has 8 kids, which is crazy
and counting.
And a few of them are adopted. So big family guy, I guess. But yeah, so going into Zack Snyder, he's an interesting case because, yeah, like you said, his fans are the most annoying thing about him because I will say, he doesn't come off as pretentious, but he does seem to think that his movies are smarter than they are.
Right.
Not in a pretentious way. Like, I was reading quotes from him and stuff, and he was talking about how Man of Steel is like an immigrant story. Because Superman came from Krypton and he was adopted by Earth.
That sounds like some retroactive reframing.
Well, I think the quote was taken from, an interview from the time. I don't think it was, him talking about it now. But that's what I mean. He is trying. Bless his heart, he's trying. And that's the reason I think it is worth pointing out that James Gunn wrote this is one of the things that... So, again, this is good movies by bad directors.
James Gunn just replaced him, though, as the head of the superhero stuff at WB.
As I said, it was crazy seeing that he wrote this because this is such a perfect review to talk about this at this point in time.
Right.
Because the careers of all of these people are in such an interesting place. We have the follow-up, and that too. So 28 Days Later came out just 2 years before this. Technically a year in the US because it was a UK film. 28 Days Later came out 27th of June 2003. Less than a year later, this film came out. And I'm sure one thing you noticed, T, is that the zombies can sprint, just like the ones in 28 Days Later.
Yeah. So there was definitely some inspiration.
Yes. And that would, I guess, be James Gunn's fault. But, I mean, can't blame the guy for copying something that worked very well. And this outperformed 28 Days Later, too, because I was just watching a thing about that because the new movie's coming out. That one did well as well, but it only, I think, grossed 80-something million. So this this outperformed 28 Days Later. I do think part of it does come from the brand recognition, like, Dawn of the Dead, it's a remake of a Romero film,
Right.
you know, so people probably came to it for that.
We're just gonna have to get into this because I have many thoughts. I
think we talked enough.
And say I will be the dissenting voice here.
Yes,
but you're not shocked by
that. Well, so like this movie's good. I don't think it's interesting, right? Like it's one thing I'm always saying. I haven't said it in a while because we haven't talked about any remakes or anything in a while. But I'm always saying that if you remake or reboot a film, it needs to justify its existence.
Yeah.
I think this film does.
Okay.
And I think it does partly from plagiarism of 28 Days Later. And also, like, James Gunn writing it made so much sense when I saw that. Because the original Dawn of the Dead is like a hippie movie. And that sounds weird because it's like a zombie movie.
Isn't it
but
like
it's very...
Is it supposed to be like some kind of weird, nuanced take on consumerism or something?
Yes.
Okay.
So George Romero always tried to make like political points in his horror movies, and so the same line exists in this film, but it's just like a throwaway line. So the original Dawn of the Dead is a lot more slow paced than this, and it also just feels like improv. You know, basically it starts off in the city. I'm guessing it's Pittsburgh. There's a newscast that's like covering, you know, the zombie apocalypse. And the news station gets overrun, and one of the reporters, I believe a cop, no, a couple of police officers and a helicopter pilot escape the news station, and they fly for a little while until they run out of gas. They find like some, you know, country gas station where they're able to like refuel, which also maybe I'm misremembering because it's like it's a helicopter. I don't think it'll take regular gas. But anyway, so they refuel. There's like a whole scene where it's like, oh, there's zombies. Oh my God, we need to take off, blah, blah, blah. And there's also like a scene where the helicopter blades like chop off the top part of a zombie's head.
Oh, okay.
Then you know, they're like, oh man, we need to find a place to hide out. And they find a shopping mall and they land on the roof. So already completely different setup from this movie. But then once they are in the mall, it's just like Romero had access to a mall for like 30 days. And the movie just kind of feels like, okay, who's got ideas? What are some things that we can do in the mall? You know, like it's not structured.
I don't know why.
It feels...
I'm just like, did he like just see Chopping Mall and was like, we can do this too? Actually, no.
Maybe.
Did Chopping Mall come later? I think it did. I think that was 80s. I'm sorry, go on.
But anyway, yeah, so the original Dawn of the Dead is good in its own way, but it's very meandering. There isn't like a through line. You know, I think some more like survivors show up at the mall at some point, but it's pretty much just like them dicking around in the mall. Every so often there'll be some zombies that they need to deal with, but it kind of soaks in that premise a little bit more than this one. That being said, this one is very tightly structured.
I was very appreciative of that.
Yeah, it's like a tight hour and 40 minutes. I think the original Dawn of the Dead might even go up to 2 hours. I could be misremembering that. But this is much more digestible to a mainstream audience. Like, this is what you expect in a zombie movie, and it doesn't, like, mess around. There isn't, like... You know, it's constant action to the point where it's almost kind of nauseating, but like at least there's no wasted time. The only thing I could say is I feel like they squandered the shopping mall premise a little bit in this one, because there's like that one musical montage where you see them kind of messing around in different stores and stuff.
You get a
but
very
I feel like
revealing look at Ty Burrell's life.
Oh, yes. But I feel like they could have done a little bit more with the setting, maybe had some action sequences in different stores, maybe played up the comedy or the fantasy of like, what if you had a shopping mall to yourself, you know, like instead of just like one sequence.
You know what?
But I feel like, again, that was
this playing on what you said. I would have loved, you know, because, you know, there's survivors in, you know, essentially what is understood to kind of be like an end of the world situation. Like, this is gonna sound stupid, but I'm just like, what if like they did like their dream shopping spree or something like that would one, tell us more about the characters, two, kind of puts them, in the place where they understand their fate. And 3 makes use of the setting. I don't know. That was probably dumb, but I was kind of being like, "Ooh, are we gonna have like a faux shopping spree sequence? That would be fun."
There was more of that in the original. There's also like some clever bits. Like at one point, they're like raiding one of the restaurants, and they crack open the cash register, and obviously, what's money gonna be worth in the zombie apocalypse? But one of the police officers looks at the other, and he's like, "You never know," and they end up, just getting a bunch of cash because, good point, you never know. Maybe someone will be dumb enough to want like $1 million to something, or whatever. But there was a little bit more of that in there. And yeah, I completely agree. Like, I feel like there could have been a little bit more of, even just like looting. I mean, I don't know. Like, if you have a shopping mall to yourself, part of the reason this is such a cool premise is just that what would you do if you had a whole shopping mall to yourself? This was literally copied again in a video game that came out a year or two after this film. I know T plays video games. Have you heard of Dead Rising?
Yes, I have. Actually, when I was looking for this for streaming, I kept finding comparisons between this movie and Dead Rising. And I was like, what is this?
Again, this is such a famously good idea for a zombie movie because it is a good place to hold up if there were a zombie apocalypse. It's fortified to the point, like if people were like rioting for Black Friday, they're not going to be able to break through the doors. So once you secure the building, you're good. There's the food court with, freezers and stuff. So you should have enough food to last for a long time.
Right.
You've got you have multiple entrances and exits. You have, so the danger, and this is kind of where Romero was making a political statement, and they kind of are in this film, but they sort of shrug it off, is at first it's extra safe because there's just, a couple of zombies, straggling a few inside, whatever. But over time, more just keep coming to the mall. And I feel like this mall was pretty good too. In the original one, it felt like that mall was just like out in the middle of nowhere. So there is something spooky about like, why are they just coming here from all directions? So that crowd of zombies outside the mall just keeps getting bigger and bigger every day. And that's what's scary. It's like,
is that why that line is in the movie about like where he was like force of habit or something like that?
There is a couple of lines that are lifted from the original that are classic lines. There's that one where it's like, oh, maybe they just, it's out of instinct because it's where they
that's
used
what
to.
It was,
I forget what the line exactly is.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
There's also like in the news reports when they're, the security guards are like flipping through channels. There's a line that I think it was from Night of the Living Dead. It might have been from Dawn of the Dead, but there's a famous line from the Dead movies where they're speculating on what's causing the outbreak, and it's like, oh, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. And I think someone said that in like the news things, like when they're flipping through.
Yeah.
But the biggest praise I could give to this film, and I think it is Zack Snyder's problem, is that like, and it's getting worse because now he's doing his own cinematography, but like in his worst movies, in my opinion, he has a writing credit on them. He has no writing credit on this film. It was just George A. Romero and James Gunn.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think it actually was George A. Romero. I'm going to mostly give the credit to James Gunn. His best movies are when he has nothing.
So that makes sense.
And not only that, I double-checked 300. No writing credit. He had nothing to do with the script. Like, he loved the comic and stuff. I remember him talking about it at the time, so he was familiar with the material, did not write the movie. I didn't check Watchmen, but I would almost guess that he had no writing credit on it either. That is he needs to stop doing that because he's fine as a director. His movies are still going to be kind of dumb, but like he needs to lay off the script because it's like that's what always ruins it.
If writing is not your strong suit, dude.
It's his most okay films are when he has nothing to do with the script. So that's one thing. And that's, again, one of my strongest points for this movie is James Gunn did a really good job streamlining it and also just making it its own thing. you didn't need to, copy the if anything, I actually think the setup for this is stronger than the original, because that, following Anna with, she's working at the hospital, and you're kind of slowly seeing things get weird.
Yeah.
As, the world ends and stuff, and just having her and her husband wake up to like the neighbor girl who was super sweet the day before attacking them. And then when she leaves the house, it's just everything's on fire. It's just chaos. Awesome opening to a film. Like it's scary. It's one of the scariest things because it all happens so quickly, and she doesn't have time to plan for anything. She just gets in the car and goes, and then, she's stopped when, all the cars are off. Well, actually, no, like she's run off the road by, I believe it was another police officer, or it was an EMT or something, and then she crashes, wakes up, the shopping mall stuff starts. But that opening sequence is like something I would show to a class for screenwriting, because it doesn't waste any time. It's like maybe 10 minutes long, but it gets you right into the setting and like the scenario and everything. Whereas in the original Dawn of the Dead, I think it's like 25 minutes before they get to the mall, if that.
So what I read online is a lot of people, like you said, love that opening sequence. Like a lot of, even like stuff that didn't give, because I had to do some researching here, because I had some questions that I needed answered. And a lot of people describe this opening sequence as like the best part. Even people who gave it like negative reviews, like loved the whole opening. That's the part I kind of wish I could have skipped. I was like, do I need to watch this part? So yeah, no, but it's very tight. The action sequences are very, very good. Like you said, following Anna throughout that was really good. The thing you got messed up, that was that was the bus driver from the bus she's stuck behind that comes up and says, "Give me your car."
Okay.
But
he was wearing a uniform, so I was kind of like, wait, what is he? Anyway, so yeah, bus driver.
But no, yeah, so that's all really good. But as cool as that is and everything, and as little as the character knows what's going on, I also kind of wonder if we had started just with her kind of waking up there, I kind of think that would have been more interesting. Like, let's say she had an accident, but we didn't know why, and we're all kind of slowly figuring it out.
True.
I mean, I'm not saying that the opening's bad. This is, like I said, I have my own personal issues with stuff, but like I kind of wish it started there. But I also think it kind of would be an interesting story choice too. But no,
if I was going to do that, well, if I was going to do that, I'd give her amnesia too, because then it'd be kind of like, what is going on? Like if she just, got amnesia from hitting her head.
Actually, now that I think about that, yeah, like that's very 28 Days Later. Never mind. That would have been too similar.
Pretty much. I mean, and let's get into that. So like when, 30 minutes ago when we started talking about this film, you said you were going to dig into it like you were going to be the detractor. What's your problem with the film? Because you got questions, you got complaints, you got critiques. Get into it.
I have some critiques and ask questions. So one of my biggest critiques, actually not one of my biggest critiques, one offhand critique, because this is more at Zack Snyder, it is very much shot like a first-person shooter. And it also has that weird, I don't even know what to describe the what the look of it is, but it's like it has this weird sort of
oversaturated
thing. Yeah, but it's like
oversaturated.
It's like every action film or something of that time period. Like like I could look at a scene that has no technology or anything in it, and I would be like, this is an early 2000s movie.
Well, you know what's so funny? So I was about to dig into him about the cinematography, and that's when I found out, wait a second, he didn't do the cinematography. Then I went back and, found out in my research, whoever said that didn't know what they were talking about. So yeah, you can undersaturate a film and oversaturate is when like the colors are like neon almost. Yeah. And I thought that was such a weird choice for this movie, especially with it being like having it be in the daytime is one thing, but it looks weird. But like everything, the sort of thing
everything's like tinted slightly green.
Yeah, it's one of those things I could forgive when I'm a teenager, but watching it now, I'm just like, why did you make it look like this? And it's funny too, because this is the only Snyder film that really looks like this. he like undersaturates like
Yeah.
everything after this. Like 300 is, in my opinion, objectively like a really gorgeous film. But then you get into like his edgy superhero stuff, and it's very dark and very undersaturated. So it's almost kind of funny. It's very unlike the rest of his movies, but I agree. I actually think the cinematography is kind of a mess in this film.
You know
I think
what
it does its
reminds
job.
me of? It reminds me of, I don't know if you remember this, but there used to be on like every DVD or whatever, there was that, what was that? That commercial that was like, you wouldn't steal a car. And
Yup,
it looks
yup.
just like that.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe the cinematographer shot those commercials. But yeah, no, I'm actually fully behind you, and I'm the cinematography nerd. It looks dated. I'll say that much. And I would go as far as to say it looks bad, but also it's like stuff at the time. I feel like it looking at it now, it's worse than it was in 2004. Because that's also when those ads were like, man, 2004, the aesthetics were so weird. You get it makes me think of like the original Xbox, and like, you know, the stuff that was on TV at the time, frankly, didn't look all that different from this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think that visually it has aged very well, but it's fine. It's serviceable. Like, you can at least you can see what's going on.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. That was kind of a nitpicky thing, because that's one of the things that bugged me, because like I think it was Saving Private Ryan started it, but like for the longest time every film had kind of that weird thing that Saving Private Ryan did, and it's just like, everyone stop, like, have a personality. And this was kind of just one of those things. Like I said, it looked too 2004, and the fact that I can pinpoint a year tells me that this was a stylistic choice that was doing the people were doing back then too much. But I actually, it turns out a lot of the issues that I have are actually with the script. This is, and I'm trying not to nitpick a lot of this, because I feel like it is.
Go for it. Go for it. I might have rebuttals.
Everybody in this movie is stupid. Everyone is dumb here. Like, we put the group of the dumbest people together, and we're like, hey, everyone, let's see if we can survive. Like, they were just interesting people, but I also feel like a lot of the characters, very one-dimensional. Yes, the one I would say
agree with that
is the most un-one-dimensional is, ironically, one of the characters I hated at the very beginning, the security guard with the mustache. He actually evolves and becomes kind of the hero, taking care of everyone figure. I think everybody else kind of just stagnates with where they're at.
It's so like, I don't have a problem with a lot of the survivors being stupid. The ones that I thought were very not stupid, definitely one-dimensional, but not stupid, were Anna, Michael, and Kenneth, and CJ. Definitely agree with CJ that he's the security we're talking about. Anna, you know, she understands, you know, she's a nurse, so medically she understands how infections work. She's the one to figure out how it's spread and all of that sort of stuff. Michael is pretty good with like dealing with people with hot tempers. Like, he's the one who's able to talk CJ down.
Yeah.
He's also good at kind of like, oh, I'm sure you definitely wrote a sign on the roof, right? You know, kind of a little manipulative, but kind of, you know, able to get him to, you know, come to his senses and be like, oh, maybe we should be a little more proactive. So I didn't think was very stupid. And then Kenneth, you know, the only dumb thing, he's like desperately trying to get to his brother at that army base, but you can kind of forgive him for that. And also he cuts it out, like, once he realizes, like, oh, it's overrun. Like, sadly, my brother is probably gone.
Actually, he was still trying to leave after he found it was overrun. He had to be talked some sense into it just a little bit more.
He did, but he did come to his senses. And again, like, I give him a little bit of a pass because it's emotional, a family member. Yeah. You would want to, like, you know, oh, maybe there's that 1% chance that they survived. So maybe not a smart move, but I understand that the emotions were, you know.
Okay, how about this?
Going.
The ones that weren't stupid were too one-dimensional.
The ones that were stupid were like, I can't remember. There's a reason I did not write down the entire cast. I just wrote down the important ones. I can't believe I missed CJ, but my apologies. But yeah, no, like I will say, did you catch the gay character? I thought that was kind of neat. They didn't like make him into a stereotype, it's just sort of a blink and you miss it.
I did miss it. Tell me more.
He's the old man. He's trying on the high-heeled shoes.
Oh, that. Okay. I did see that. I actually saw that and then was like, did I see that correctly? Or because then they also had it in another sequence, like a few scenes later, the old woman. Not the old one, but the older woman. So then I was like, oh, no, that wasn't the old man. That was her.
No. That was the old man. And I think there was like another kind of nod to it. I'm not going to give it too much praise because he's also like a nothing character.
I think his name was
It was
Glenn.
just kind of nice. Like, oh, hey, cool, he's gay. Like, that's neat. That's some representation you wouldn't normally get in 2004. But yeah, it's like something I'm always saying with horror movies. People are always like, oh, they act so stupidly.
Well, there was some stuff here that like I get that, but that there was just like beyond stupid. Like,
oh yeah, well, like my rebuttal to that is always, have you met people in real life?
That's true.
Have you worked retail? Have you dealt with the public? Because you will be surprised how stupid people can be sometimes.
So I did,
and that is the thing with zombie movies too. I talked about this with 28 Days Later, and 28 Days Later was more with the soldiers at the end of the film. But the danger is not the zombies; it is other people.
Oh, yeah.
Either being stupid or being selfish or being violent. Like, the zombies are almost just like mindless animals. The thing anyone who's making or writing a zombie movie needs to understand is that the danger is from other people. And that's the thing that makes CJ kind of wise. I don't think he's being a little bit too much of a tyrant, the way he's running the mall, and that's what gets him locked up. But he's smart in that sense, where it's like, we can't just let everybody in here, and we don't know if they're infected. We don't know if they've got guns. We don't know if they're idiots. Like, they might just like do something stupid, like leave a door open,
or
so, like,
bring a sick
he's got
woman
the right
in.
mind. Yes, and I've had a feeling you're probably going to get on with what's his name, Andre, like in that whole side plot.
Oh, God, okay. So a couple things. So, like I said, one of my big issues with the characters, like I said, I thought they were, like, I know horror characters are stupid. I get that. But, like, they just seemed like a little bit excessively stupid here. And I'm just like, y'all, really? Like I said, I feel like they were very one-dimensional. We had, except for, like, really CJ, Michael, a little bit. Anna was pretty one-dimensional. Yeah, everybody was pretty like, and also if you were to ask me about any of these characters, I know nothing about them. The only one I know about is Anna had a husband and worked at a hospital. That's all I could tell you about her. I don't know really much about her personality. CJ is the one that we get the most out of, and because, you know, he was obviously set up to be so unlikable that we root for his death, and then he turns around and surprises us. Like, he's the twist, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So,
and it's also like, you're kind of, part of the problem is there's so many characters that, you know, again, this is like a 100-minute movie. Like, you don't have time to get into like the personal backstories with everyone.
Right.
I think they could have done a better job with the core cast, those 4 that I named. And again, that's also why I do think that opening sequence with Anna is so important.
I would, but Anna's dumb because what dumbass hears the emergency tones turning on 6 different radio stations and changes it over to some smooth jazz. She was dumb.
I think she just needed to like hear some, because that's when she's driving, right?
Yes, yeah, that's when she's driving back from the hospital. I guess.
I mean, I think at that point, I think she figured out, like, welp, everyone's fucked. Like, I might as well just like listen to some music to calm myself down so I don't crash into a tree.
No. This is when she's leaving the hospital to go home the first night. Not everything's
wrong.
She misses that.
Okay.
And then they have their little shower hookup, so they miss the stuff on the TV. But I was like, switching the stations was totally on your hands, Anna. Like Luis's blood is on your hands. I'm sorry. It just is.
In that case, though, what are you supposed to expect? Because, like, It's another day at work. She's already late leaving. She probably is just tired, and it's kind of one of those things. Again, it's the dramatic irony. We are watching a zombie movie, and we know that we're getting into a zombie movie. What is she supposed to assume from that? You know what I mean? Like, is it nuclear? Like, oh, no one's bombed anything. Like, the emergency alert thing would go off on everyone's phone or whatever.
This is 2004. They didn't have those.
Good point.
So I'm sorry.
I don't know.
She's a little.
Again,
killed.
like,
she got her husband killed.
Not everyone is glued to the news like you, T.
She couldn't even open a bathroom window. Like, girl, unlock it. That was so much unnecessary tension.
I mean, these are all just like horror movie things. I will say, I think that was because her hands were covered in her husband's blood. It gets slippery, T.
She does She does not reach for the window latch until he shoves his head through the door. She is just pulling on it.
Again.
I know, I get it. I'm sorry.
You're not wrong. It's just horror tropes. You know what I mean? It's like, why is the girl running away from the...
I'm just saying why I felt everybody was dumb. And I know you said you didn't think Anna was dumb. I'm like, she's dumb. Here's why.
Again, I will also say, T, if someone was trying to break into your... Like, if you were locked in a bathroom and someone was breaking in with an axe, like... You probably might make some mistakes as well from being panicked.
That's true. I would remember to unlock the window. I will say that.
True.
Nicole's...
The other thing I will say about that...
Nicole's dumbass over that dog. Really? I'm like, leave her there. That's on her. She wanted to drive off. Leave her.
I felt the same way as a kid. And I love dogs. Yeah. But it's so freaking obvious that Chips is safe. Like, they do not care. Girl, they do not care about the dog. They care about people. They are not.
Yeah, we saw him walk through the crowd. He was fine. If anything, Chips got Andy killed. So
no, she drove me and my sister crazy as like kids, because it's like, again, if the dog were in danger, I would feel a certain way, but like, he's not. He's fine. He's perfectly safe. I will say, so like the thing you were talking about, Anna, I believe it came out the year after this, but so Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy.
Yeah.
And there's, it's meant to be funny. There's a bit, they kind of copy the opening of this film with the little subtle hints that like things are getting worse and worse. Mm-hmm. But the joke is that Shaun is an idiot. And he's not paying attention to anything.
I do remember that. It reminds me of that movie that kind of messed me up for a while, Anna and the Apocalypse. Same thing.
Yeah. I barely remember.
But like, she comes out and does her musical number while everybody's eating everybody.
Yeah. But in Shaun of the Dead, I remember the day that everything is completely, gone to hell. It's one of the funniest. So the day before, they show him like getting ready for work and his little routine. He goes to the corner shop and like buys his Coke.
There's like
Coca-Cola,
a bloody handprint on the door.
It's like it's this tracking shot. And so on the day that the zombie apocalypse is happening, they recreate it, but he's hungover and everything is obviously horribly wrong, but he's just not paying attention. It's one of the funniest like sequences because it's mirroring that normal day, but like there's a zombie kid like shuffling towards him. He's no, not today. And then he goes to the corner store and there's just like blood everywhere and there's no one at the counter and he's just like, well, whatever. He leaves money there.
Yeah, there was that guy who was like polishing his car all the time. His car now has like a thing in the windshield.
Exactly. So rewatching this, because I haven't seen this film in a long time. Like, it was one of my go-to like fun films when I was like a teenager, but I guess I've moved on to better zombie films, but like I hadn't seen this in a while, and when that opening sequence with Anna was happening, Shaun of the Dead was popping into my mind. I was like, oh wow, I feel like it's a direct parody of this movie.
I mean,
because like you said, there's a bunch of because there's just a bunch of stuff she's not. And again, like to me, I'd be like, what is she supposed to expect? Like, frankly, that's the other thing with zombie movies is people have never heard of zombies in zombie movies.
I know.
It's like a new thing.
And people are like, oh my god, so what are they? Obviously zombies, like, girl.
Again, it's like a dramatic irony thing. Well, Scooby-Doo zombies were different kinds of zombies.
That's true, but they knew what zombies were.
Well, that's Scooby-Doo's whole thing. No, like, but that's a thing in zombie movies. There's always this dramatic irony of like the audience knows what is going on because zombies are such a cornerstone of pop culture, but to the people in the film, it's like, oh my god, how is everyone getting infected? And everyone is screaming in their seats, the bite, don't get bitten.
Oh my God.
You know, and that's the same thing with this movie. And at least Anna is smart enough to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, and then,
you know, it's
speaking of the bite, girl, are we really gonna pretend like Keith shouldn't be dead?
yeah, you're talking about like when he's getting
Right.
you know, attacked,
So,
and he whacks his hand
he whacks his
on
hand.
the side of
So
the thing. And
that's fine, except he's wrestling around in bloody zombie infected water now with this guy. And people are like, oh, it's transmitted through saliva. I'm like, yeah, the saliva has bacteria in it, which is in his body, which is now in the blood that this guy is rolling around in. So they had that, but
specifically a bite. At
Well,
least, you know, again, whatever. It might not make sense. This
but
isn't 28 days later where a drop of blood can infect you.
I'd agree, except then pregnant chick gets turned by a scratch.
Was it a scratch? I thought she got bitten.
No, they keep saying scratch.
Well, maybe he's saying scratch because it's like, oh, no, it's nothing.
Maybe.
Don't kill my girl.
Maybe. So there's that, and also, they only become zombies when they die, right? So,
yeah,
the baby is alive the entire time. Why is it a zombie baby?
I think they're implying that it died because she died and then it came back.
Okay.
Well, and also, like, you could make the argument, it's like, oh, you know, like, technically they're sharing blood and stuff while he's in the womb.
Okay.
Whatever.
I'm
Frankly,
sorry.
to be
we
honest,
just established bites only. No, I'm messing with you, but
to be honest, that scene was one of the things I liked the most about this movie as a teenager. And rewatching it, it's like the most James Gunn thing in the movie. Like, you know, he just wanted to have a zombie baby being born,
right?
Because that's the kind of guy he was before he was writing, you know, superhero movies for Disney.
You're right.
Because, like, and again, it's gross and disturbing, but it is kind of one of the most memorable scenes in the movie.
I just still can't believe they brought that one woman in from the truck.
Yeah, the really diseased
like,
one.
She's like she's green. Leave her outside.
Oh man. Again, it's typical zombie movie stuff. Oh, she's okay. She'll pull through. While you know better as an audience member that nope, she is going to. Well, in that she looked like she was on death's door. Ugh.
My question is
It's a
also,
whole thing.
why didn't they send the dog through the sewer?
Why didn't they do a lot of things?
So
again,
my biggest thing,
I
my biggest thing here is this: they were stuck in a place that had food, water, electricity, heat, blankets, clothing, medical supplies. They literally just had to wait until the zombies died.
Well, so at least, again, they don't get into it in this film, but so Romero zombies are the living dead, so they don't starve to death. They will literally like, depending on which film and what kind of, like, some zombies, like, you can sever their head and their head will still be, like, moving around. And at least from, like, the post-credit scene, it seems to be following that line of logic.
Don't get me started on that post-credit scene. Do not.
Well, let's get into it. But I mean, so that's the thing. Like, again, this is not 28 Days Later zombies. These are, like, supernatural. So the thing with the Dead movies, Romero smartly never explained why they were coming back to life or what caused it.
Yeah.
And that's part of what's so spooky about it, is that you can treat it like it's a virus, and most people assume it is a virus, but the dead are coming back to life. And again, you can't starve them because they're already dead.
Well,
that's like the thing that made 28 Days Later so unique, was that it was not dead people. It was, you know, people infected with a virus. And Danny Boyle in that film always insisted it was not a zombie movie. It was like a pandemic kind of movie.
Well, I would agree with you, except for the fact that whatever that is inhabiting a very corporeal form as a human being. And a human being, before, now if they were to say to starve to death, it's like 8 to 30 days depending on the person. But even before then, your muscle mass breaks down. you start losing circulation stuff. Essentially, at some point, they may just be zombie bones. And like at that point, we could just sweep them up and throw them in the dumpster, you know? So and I did look this up because I was curious how long were they there, and I think someone said sometime in May to sometime in June. They claimed there was a calendar somewhere. So they were there definitely long enough for the bodies to break down. The zombie whatever might still be alive in it, but the bodies would, and especially with them sprinting, girl, please. I'm sorry. This is all stuff that bugs me about this stuff, because like it's like there's no, like, you know, with vampires there's always established vampire lore, there's stuff with ghosts, but it's like with zombies everybody's like, okay, they're just here forever. I'm like, that's literally impossible. Now if they were supernatural beings, which some people say they are, that's a different story. But when the way that this is structured with transmission through saliva and a bite, it's a virus. It's an admission that it's a virus. At least in this adaptation. I haven't seen the other one.
In this one. And that's kind of the other problem. So like the running, so speaking of what you're speaking of, like even though I'm telling you not to think about it too literally, the running bothered me as a kid for the same reasons you're saying. It's like, oh, okay, so these are the Living Dead zombies. Like, these are like Romero zombies. Why can they run? Like, they're rotting away. Like you said, like, even if I'm going to, you know, go with the usual rules for Romero zombies where they'll just, you know, you can't starve them. They'll just keep, you know, shuffling around. Like, a rotting corpse should not be able to full sprint.
Yeah.
Like, because its joints are breaking down and other stuff. This is a film that didn't really, it's not a thinking person's like zombie movie. This is popcorn horror of the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, this is made just to appeal to a wide demographic. This was like, you know, an MTV movie.
Whiskey is straight up in here saying like, dude, like, they don't ponder deep questions. Calm down.
No, that's the thing. And I think maybe that's why I've outgrown this movie a little bit. I think it's good fun, but there's not a lot to chew on. And I think that's kind of one of the downsides.
I mean, I guess that's always one of my problems with zombie movies. I mean, except for the my own personal fears thing I have. But it's just like, there never seems to be some sort of logic that's in place. At most we get is, oh, you have to take their heads off or something. That's the most we get. You know what I'm saying? Every sort of whatever has some sort of logic or lore to it, even if it's not conventional. And zombie movies seem to never have any.
Well, so I have not seen it, partly because a lot of people think it's the most boring one. But so the third film in the Dead trilogy by Romero, Day of the Dead. So Day of the Dead takes place years and years after the zombie outbreak. And so the political point he's trying to make in that one, you know, the first one was just sort of about like, frankly, I'm not going to spoil it because we might talk about it, but the political point he's making is the ending of that film. Then in Dawn of the Dead, it's about consumerism. And in the original ending of the original Dawn of the Dead, some bikers find the mall, they break in, they start just like going hog wild, but they don't really, you know, they've been surviving out on their motorcycles. They don't care about the zombies. They let all the zombies in. And the survivors, some of them get eaten, some of them escape on the helicopter and they fly away, and that's pretty much it. Meanwhile, all the bikers are just getting eaten by all the zombies because they're idiots and they just, you know, so
Day of the Dead. So I mean, in the original Dawn of the Dead, they don't flee to a yacht.
No,
okay.
No. Again, the other thing I can really praise about this film is that James Gunn did not rip off, like, the mall is the only connecting tissue. Besides the title, he did his own thing, which I cannot praise enough. Like, people will argue the original's better, and I can agree and disagree depending on certain aspects, but I love that they are two different movies. Like, again, the only thing that is similar is that they are about survivors held up in a shopping mall. Like, I could show you the original Dawn of the Dead and you'd be like, this is a completely different movie.
Right.
Exactly. But so Day of the Dead takes place years and years after the zombie apocalypse. It takes place at a military base with a couple of scientists and a couple of soldiers. and they're studying a zombie who fans love. Like, the point is that now zombies have replaced humans as like the dominant life form on Earth. Like, they outnumber us, and most of the movie is them studying this one zombie who they name, and I forget his name, but he is able to think and answer questions. And so they're like posing this like, well, wait a second, he has like a personality, and he like, we can communicate with him. So does that mean that he's a monster? Like, or is this like the next evolution of people? You could agree, like, you could say that's stupid, but like, that's what Romero was going for.
But see, that's more interesting to me. That is an interesting concept. So I can kind of get on board with that, because again, it's establishing a lore. And anyway, but let's
no, exactly.
Let's talk
and
about
well, and that's why like you can write off Romero's films is like, even if you think it's stupid, he's trying to do something like thoughtful with it.
Right. Well,
you know, that's not this movie.
Well, I did read though. That's because, you know, some people were, because he didn't like that it didn't have like really a message like his do, and I guess other people said that they wish they'd had more of like the commentary on consumers than the first one does. But then somebody pointed out, and I wish I remember where it was. It said something about, oh, like that wouldn't work in this kind of time, because what consumerism has evolved from 1978 to what it is now. And it has different meanings and different societal meanings. Because, like, I think they said it's like consumerism is also a form of identity. What you consume, how you consume, what you just, it's also a form of identity and self-expression. So I thought that was interesting. So I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. If they try to make this an anti-consumer film, it wouldn't have worked in this time period. The audiences wouldn't have bought it. Now we have a problem with overconsumption, so maybe they could bring it back.
If they did, it's so funny, like, because right before we started recording, T and I were talking about, you know, like Disney adults, and also how, like, for a while TV shows always had like a talk show afterwards talking about the episode that you just watched. And it's like, yeah, like nowadays, Labubu's are a thing. You could probably make like a Dawn of the Dead now that's more faithful to the Romero one. Again, like this film, it's great. Its strength and weakness is that it just didn't want to like get bogged down in any kind of like thoughtful. It's popcorn horror. Mm-hmm. That's a term I've coined on the show before, but this is a perfect example of it. And the box office numbers show like this was, well, and frankly, you know, this was also kind of a time period where people didn't really want to think about deep things, right? Like, I think of the 2000s, and it's like, this is the Limp Bizkit era. This is, you know what I mean? Like, this was like kind of one of the dumbest periods in our history. So like, just having like a mindless little like zombie film with a lot more action than the original is kind of what people were serving up. So, but let's get into the post.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, let's get into the post credits scene. I was gonna top that by saying, so when I was watching this, one of the reasons why I don't typically like horror films or slashery films is because I hate getting attached to characters that either die immediately or unceremoniously or something that then I feel like I wasted my time. And especially at the end, I'm like, well, spoiler. I'm like, if everybody dies, what's the point? And so I looked it up, and people were like, oh, the point is redemption. I could totally see that if everybody doesn't die at the end. What redemptions? But okay, the post-credit scene. What do you know about it?
Well, so first off, redemption. I'm guessing they're talking about Michael because like he sacrifices himself.
But what did he do?
And I guess
wrong?
maybe that there's. Well, he was. I'm guessing it's people because he was like going to shoot that girl's dad before like he turned into a zombie, and that was kind of like oh, you're being the executioner or whatever. So maybe that's what they're talking about, because I know what you mean. It's like, what does he have to redeem? He's not really one of the like characters that did anything selfish or evil or whatever. Mm-hmm. The thing that I remember about that post-credit scene was that it was scary, because at least for me, like the logic of getting on a yacht and going to an island sounded like a great idea, because like they were saying when they were discussing it, like there's no one on there. Even if there were zombies, like there can't be more than like a handful. And also, you know, because of the water, what are they going to do? Are they going to like swim over there? So the fact that they go all the way out there and somehow there's still like a ton of zombies out there, that to me was like kind of scary. Also, like there's that little fishing boat where it's like it's abandoned, and then they open the cooler and there's the head inside.
Wait, yeah, what? It just what kind was of that? What was that? A person that had melted inside the cooler, or like I was trying to understand. I mean, it was it was scary. I get that, but I was just like, what was the cooler supposed to be? Like now inanimate objects.
My guess is that it. Well, my guess is that again, it's like there's no one on the boat, but you would think that it's like, oh, that's what they put it in there to contain the head, so it wouldn't be like going around biting people. But then I guess
oh my God,
whoever was on the boat just abandoned it or something.
I just had a thought. That's how it gets to the island. They put the heads in boats and send it over there.
Ah, maybe
because according to Reddit, their main that was a loaded statement. I'm sorry, but the people who were the people who were talking about it said that I'm like, what is the zombie human motivation? It's always to spread the disease or the virus or the magic or whatever it is. So that's like the fact they showed it to us. I think that was supposed to tell us they figured out a way to get to the island.
Probably
shows up.
But what was scary to me, like. And still is scary, like, because again, it seems like a perfect plan. It defies logic how zombies were able to get there. It's like, what next? Like, are you going to go to the International Space Station and they'll suddenly be up there as well? It's like,
how
how
soon we forget Amityville in space?
Right. But yeah, that's what was scary to me. It's like it didn't necessarily need to over explain how the zombies got there. Just the fact that they were there was what was scary to me, because it's like, how is this place not safe?
So people kept referring to on Reddit this ending scene as tacked on. What do you know about that?
So it wasn't tacked on, but it might feel that way to some people. Because for MTV and AMC, they did not have the post-credit scene. They actually changed the ending, so it was just like as they're sailing off into the sunset, like it slowly fades to black before you hear the gunshot, and then the credits roll, and that was like the TV ending, I guess, for at least those were the two networks that were named, AMC and MTV. So I don't know if it was like that on just all of the TV edits. Mm-hmm. But, so I'm guessing if someone felt like it was tacked on, it might have been like they saw it on TV and they assumed that was the original ending. And then, but no, it was like, it wasn't tacked on. I didn't find any like serious trivia on like how they came up with it or anything. I think it was just sort of always in the cards, like that it was going to be like a little extra treat. If you were you know what I mean? Like just, in case you want to know what happened to them after they sailed off. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that it's a necessary, like I told you, because before, when I was watching this, I texted T to be like, in case you're just going to shut it off the second you see the credits start, just know that there's like a little post-credit thing to like sit through.
Awesome.
So like, I think the basic ending is fine. Like it's very reminiscent of the original. In the original, they fly off in the helicopter that they landed at the mall on. So it's like similar to that. You don't necessarily need to know what happened to them on the yacht. Again, I just think it's like kind of an extra scary little cherry on top. Like, oh my, like, and that too, you don't even know if they all died because the camera's dropped. All you know is that they got overrun by zombies. You don't know who got, who didn't get, taken. The fact that they're on a boat is at least nice because they do still have a way to escape back into the water. Probably still not an optimal option, but, like you don't need gas with a yacht. You could always like put a sail up or something.
Wait, okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking this up because I was trying to figure out, did somebody say there was... And I can't really find anything about that. Like you said, you couldn't find anything either.
If I remember correctly, I think there are a few alternate endings on like the DVD, but like the one that you and I watched, that is the theatrical cut. That's like if you went to see this in theaters, that's what was shown. So there might have been some other endings.
I would like to know.
And as I said, at least for the TV edit, like they didn't have the post-credit stuff.
Somebody said if anyone cares, I'm sure Nicole would have been attacked first, and she cared about that dog more than anyone else. But no, seriously, it's interesting though. People said, "Oh, it's left ambiguous," and I'm just like, "How is it?" They're like, "Oh, because you don't see any of them like fall in front of the camera. You don't hear any of theirs screaming," and I'm like, "What's the alternative? They just like got back on the boat and left. Like they were anyway." But yeah, so no, I like a little hope in my movies. I kind of wish they just ended it the way the movie. And I don't know, something, the fact that they added all that in a post-credit scene on a shaky handheld camera to me does feel like maybe it was added later. Like, was there like, maybe they didn't like the ending on a test screening or something? I don't know. Or the studio said, we want a depressing ending. I don't know. But it was just like, because to me that seems like a big thing. All the people you've just spent like the entire movie following and supporting, they get like killed off camera in a post-credit scene.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes with what I typically say with slasher films, but it is a horror style of writing. Like, if you're going to kill off a bunch of characters, you make them unlikable and one-dimensional. In your case, like, make them stupid. Yeah. Because again, the ones you're supposed to care about are those four that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. And maybe, you know, like, I cared about Andy, even though I knew he was going to die because I've seen this movie and, you know, all of that. He's still cool. Like, oh, you know, he can shoot people out of, you know, like, oh, do it like a Where's Waldo thing. Like, oh,
and Andy's biggest mistake was talking to them.
Honestly, it's kind of a
bleak
it's
message.
Amazing. Like, it is. It's kind of,
and he
although
still
they did
goes
try
back
and help them
to warn them.
Yeah.
He tells them basically with his smearing blood thing, don't come for me, it's over.
Pretty much. It's and then they still do anyway. Well, I mean, they're going for Nicole. They're going for Nicole.
They should have left Nicole's sad ass out there. Like, girl, starve in a closet. No one cares.
Oh, but she's a teenager, T. She's like 16 years old.
Okay. Anyway, that, and I really hated the surprise reveal at the end that Michael's been bitten.
Yeah,
that I get it. It's like a trope, but I was like kind of just like, that's a little lazy. Like it seemed like it was like when it's done that way, I kind of feel like it's more for just some quick emotional manipulation before we end the movie, because then everybody's definitely gonna leave sad because Michael, who's been like the level-headed and, you know, the leader throughout this whole thing, took care of everybody else, is gone. So I don't know. I felt I didn't like feeling like I was being manipulated. I was, but I didn't like that. Anyway, so that's kind of just, you know, my thoughts on this, on this movie.
No, and I think I feel like we've covered pretty much everything. Like, honestly, I'm kind of glad we got into some nitty gritty because it's a short movie. Yeah. I was a little worried I wouldn't have a lot to talk about, so I'm kind of happy that you had a lot of gripes.
Hear that? Whiskey likes that I'm like, a hater.
Right? It's what makes our podcast fun to listen to. No, but it's again, I think it's a good movie. It's not perfect, but I think the simplicity is what lends it to be one of Snyder's better movies. The ones that suck are ones where he tries so hard to make it like very long and epic and have a bunch of bullshit in it.
I agree.
Hilariously. So
I
like
agree with
his
you.
big return.
I actually with you. I think this film is like the perfect length for what it's trying to do.
And that's partly why it's so bare bones. Like, again, it knows that it doesn't need to be like 2.5 hours. So that's why you get one-dimensional stupid characters, because we need them to die quickly. We need them to make stupid decisions, and we need you to not really care that much about the fact that they're gone.
Right.
You know, like, Nicole is an idiot on purpose. Like, oh, she loves the dog. What an idiot. She's going after, you know, like, this, again, this is another trope of zombie movies. It's not even necessarily the people are evil, but they are the enemy because they make stupid mistakes and they act emotionally and, you know, anything like that. So,
which I was on her side
but
because she had to
comparing
live
this,
through that trauma of her dad dying and hearing him be murdered, not murdered, but, you know, put down basically. So, you know, you're on her side until she does that. You know, it's like the end of what a Jurassic Lost World, or not Lost, whatever the second movie was in the new Jurassic trilogy, where that dumb girl, I hate this, lets the dinosaurs out because she was also genetically created, and she's just like, oh, they breathe.
they're just like me.
I know. Oh my god,
they're just like me.
I was like, somebody put a pillow over her face, please. Just like, I was very unhappy with her at the end of that movie. That made me irrationally angry. Like, people are now going to die all over the world because you felt some type of way.
My closing comment with this, and another reason that this is a good film by a quote-unquote bad director. So, Zack Snyder, just like every other famous director, has a deal with Netflix to make movies for them. Currently, he's been doing a Star Wars ripoff, but his big debut being, you know, getting money to make Netflix movies was his film Army of the Dead. And that movie is like 2.5 hours long. He wrote it,
of course,
as well as directed it, as well as did the cinematography. And I mean, his fan base loved it. And there was some other problems that weren't his fault, like that one stand-up comedian that was outed for, you know, hitting up teenage girls. I think you know who I'm talking about. He was like, so he was playing the helicopter pilot, and then, you know, that happened, so he was cut out of the movie and replaced with that stand-up comedian Tig.
Yeah.
I forget her last name, but yeah. So then she played and you could tell she totally phoned it in. There was a lot of problems, but it's like the opposite of this movie. It's too long. It's boring. There's no like interesting characters. It's definitely ripping off Aliens, because it's like, oh, these badass commandos are going into this city of the dead to, I don't know, rescue someone. I forget what the setup was. And then the zombies are like super badass. It's like the most Zack Snyder movie, and I fully blame it on the fact that he wrote it. Whereas this, you can say it's stupid, and you're probably right, but at least it's not trying to be anything more than just an entertaining little movie, and I can't praise it enough for that.
Yeah, it's that.
So at least for me,
it's very self-aware of what it is. Like you said, it's not trying to be anything else. And it's just like, it's like, there's definitely no, I wouldn't even say that. I don't even think there's really much fat to trim. It's just, it does what it needs to do. If you are in the zombie and you want a quick thrill, you get in, you get out, and, you know, it works for that.
Exactly. So for me, I like this. I think I've kind of graduated to better zombie movies in general. It's always fun to pop in every once in a while,
and
but
revisit.
It's probably not going to be in my... Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's a 2 out of 4. Nothing too crazy, but like a solid, fun little movie.
Here's my rating. So this is why I want to be... I'm going to see... You're probably not going to let me get away with this. I kind of almost want to abstain from voting on this, because I'm not the person this movie is for. Like, I actively dislike this movie for reasons that's not its fault. But
be mean.
But if I had to vote on this, I would give it just below 2 out of 4 pitchers of sweet tea. I would give it 1.8. And the reason I almost gave it a 2, because like you said, it gets in, it gets out, it's quick, it doesn't overstay its welcome. I just can't get over the stupidity of some of these people in this movie, which I get, it's a trope. It's just like, they're stupid for trope's sake, and then there's just stupid, if that makes any sense. And there's that, and it's just the fact that, as much as I said, one of the strong points is that it, you know, it's quick and it gets in and out. I do wish I know more about who these people were. It's like, I could have, this could have been, like, I feel like, it sounds weird, it feels like I'm watching, like, Strangers, like, which it should be at the beginning, but then towards the end, I should feel some sort of attachment to you. And like I said, ironically, the only one I felt attached to was Michael and then CJ. So
The other thing about like a good zombie movie, and again, like bringing up 28 Days Later, like the thing, like if you're writing a zombie movie, the thing you need to understand is it's character drama. You know, every so often the zombies break in, you get a little action, whatnot, but it's the dynamics between the people that makes it interesting in any good zombie movie. Great example. I don't think it's that good of a TV show, but it definitely is an example of this. Is The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And it also, like, you never have the entire survivors like getting killed off all at once. It's always like who's going to be next. You know, there's always like one character that dies at least a season, maybe like one every few episodes or something. But like you can't get too attached, but you will.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a lot of people who loved that show, was just because of, you know, the inner, and the fact there's also kind of this magic of like these people would never in any normal circumstances know or interact with each other. That's another thing people like about zombie movies is it is a force that like makes everyone equal again. It doesn't matter if you are a politician or a janitor or a police officer or an airline pilot or a waitress or whatever. Like we are all on the same, you know, the same level at this point. Like,
yeah.
You know, unless you have a gun and I don't, like no one has authority over anyone else. And that's another thing people find about zombie movies that they like.
Yeah.
But again, it's character drama. So again, this movie, it's more focused on the action and the crazy, like, you know, a zombie baby being born and stuff. So you could even make an argument that this isn't a very good zombie movie, which is fair.
But you know what's interesting?
Like
one other thing, I just thought of this. Without the overarching message of anti-consumerism or whatever Romero's thing was, it does make you wonder, why are they all gathering at the mall?
It's the spookiest thing about the premise. Again, it's like
the mall was ground zero.
So the fact it's who knows? It's what's spooky, because when it starts out, you think, oh wow, this is the best place you could stay, and also like there's no way that you'll attract any attention because you're in this giant building. Like you can't make enough noise for anyone to hear you outside. So the fact that zombies are just gathering and it keeps getting worse and worse until there's just thousands swarming outside, that's one of the spookiest things about either of the movies. And again, like Romero's trying to make like a political point about it, but it's creepy. It's like, why are they coming here? Like, of all the places, you know, it really does make you wonder, like, is it something in their brain innately just drawing them there? Or is it like they can sense where people are, or, you know, something like that? But yeah, what do you guys think?
You tell us,
if you're listening.
Are you
to this...
a rampant consumerism? Do you often find yourself gravitating towards malls in emergency situations? Or are you just a casual zombie expert? Let us know.
Check the bio for some Reels on the Rocks merchandise.
Oh my god.
We've got shot glasses and trucker hats and Suck It Scorsese t-shirts.
Oh my god.
Please buy, or else we will cancel the show. No, but if you are listening to this on YouTube Music, give us a comment. If you are tuning in everywhere else, we are sorry we've been gone, but we're happy to have you back. And if this is the first episode you're listening to, definitely check our backlog. We've got a whole bunch. I don't even know if we still post on X anymore, but
X does exist anymore.
Both have.
We both. Yeah, well, I was about to say, we don't really have a home for social media. We're working on that right now, but
we're on Letterboxd.
We're on Letterboxd,
and we're on Letterboxd. We're reviewing movies. If you're curious what we're thinking of stuff before our finale, you can check us out there. Follow us. I think there might be DMs in Letterboxd. I don't even know. But yeah, until next time, I've been Whiskey.
I've been Sweet Tea.
Keeping it Kino.
And Suck It Scorsese.
All right, bye guys. See you next time with another bad director.
Bye y'all. Sleep tight. Don't let anything bite. Reels on the Rocks is a production of La Prince Laboratories. It is edited and produced by Alejandro Castillo and programmed by Jamie King. Original music is provided by Pat Mars, and original artwork by Ace Esparza.